Tina, do you want to go ahead and start off? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Tina's a badass, and you guys need to know what she does.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm a fan of hers too, so I could be your manager and explain what she does, but I'll let her.
I don't know how to start, but I started in the film and television industry in the late 90s. And I started first really working in what I would say was the art department, different departments on film and television. And so I got lucky enough to sort of find my way through that, and then landed on a TV series called Sex and the City. And then that was a really interesting, so I was on that show for 6 years, and I managed what was the product placement, branded entertainment. And really what that was being a cog in the wheel for television of, multiple departments and offsetting production. And then from there, I met the guys at Queer Eye, and I started working in more non-scripted linear. And that took me to California. And then I started working in a lot more investigative documentaries with a bunch of amazing filmmakers. And then I met Robert Redford, and I started working at Sundance Productions for many years. We produced a bunch of documentaries and some non-scripted stuff for CNN Films. And then went on to run Robert Redford's company called Wildwood Enterprises, and there really managed and oversaw production, development, and the sale of different projects and shows, one of which is Dark Winds, which introduced me to this amazing community, and that development process, and now we're shooting season 3. Yay. Yeah.
And that's pretty much why I'm here, because, we're literally in the middle of shooting Dark Winds Season 3 right now in Santa Fe and around Santa Fe. So, yeah, I'm Jessica Matten. I'm a Cree Métis actress from Canada, and I've been acting for, 15 years now. One thing I like to preface is it does take an enormous amount of discipline to get into this business, and not just acting. I think behind the camera, in front of the camera, there's an innate kind of discipline that you need to have where you're self-motivated, that no one is going to give to you, no one's going to provide to you. I'll give a great example. I was talking to Lenore on the way here. It's a beautiful time of diversity, but just because you're of a culture, that's not going to get you a career. You have to work hard. And I always want to preface that because we're in a very beautiful golden age of having all these opportunities presented to us. But if you're not prepared and you're not doing the work, then I'm just going to keep it real and say you're not going to make it. And people hate to hear that, but I also realize, when they say thick skin, it's not about getting your feelings hurt. It's about being good with waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, self-driving yourself to set, having been prepared, spending literally 80 hours memorizing lines for the last week, no complaint, showing up, looking good, and getting ready to shoot your scenes. Day in, day out, 5 days a week, 4 months straight, 12, 14 hours a day, rain or shine. And no one's gonna hold your hand. And that's the thing I had to learn the hard way. But I think, especially being Indigenous and the background I come from too, having some hard knocks in my life too has actually just aided me in this journey, where I'm not easily thrown off, if something knocks you down a bit, which it will. That's just life in general, right? So I just wanted to preface that. So that's my ramble. I run an Indigenous Film Academy up in Canada, so the things I'm telling you is pretty much the first thing I say to people on set or coming into the classes if they join me too, because you have to do some deep soul searching yourself if this is right for you. And I gotta say, it's right for a lot of people. You'd be surprised. You build a beautiful community within a community when you get the opportunity to work on these shows. Sometimes you spend more hours than you do with your family, right? So yeah, 15 years of this biz. I played Bernadette Manuelito on Dark Winds, and got another film coming out, I think in the summer. It's LeBron James's Resball. So we shot it at Albuquerque's Netflix studios. It was pretty wild. We were the only project using that entire facility last spring. So
And a great director.
Oh yes, and an amazing director, Sydney Freeland, Navajo, and Sydney did all of the Echo Marvel series as well. So Sydney directed that, and it was executive produced by Sterling Harjo as well. So yeah, so now I'm here, get the opportunity to work with Tina. I told you she's a badass. Lenore and Elias. Thank you.
Jessica, real quickly. Yes, please. What is your film academy? What is it called? The name of your film academy?
It was called Counting Coup Indigenous Film Academy. We were running out of Siksika First Nation, Blackfoot Confederacy, to now we're outside of Calgary, Alberta. Right now we're just going by Indigenous Film Academy because what we're doing is we made a pact that the 15 graduates from our program, we just individually get them work. We got them certified as IATI crew members. They're part of the DGC, which is the DGA equivalent, the Directors Guild. And so we have them right now as grips and electrics on a new Apple TV series that's shooting out there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Lenore, please tell us, this is my sister, everybody, so I know a little bit about her, but please go ahead and tell these lovely folks out here what you do and why you're here.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all out here. It's amazing when we see each other together because it helps us be stronger and more, have a lot more courage to continue forward with our dreams and what we'd like to see happen in the film industry and television industry. I've been working with George R. R. Martin. My brother and I have been working with him a little more than a decade. And one of our main projects for 5 years in development was Dark Winds. So it's just been a dream come true every day that it's now shooting, and we're getting to get into mainstream, and we're getting the stories out by Tony Hillerman, but also about the community and the culture and indigenous world that nobody knows about. Getting there mainstream for people to say, hey, wait a minute, these people are important and part of the world, and it's part of our culture. In general, just to acknowledge them and what they've been through and all the beauty that they possess. The reason why I came into filmmaking is simply because I enjoy movies and television, but mainly telling stories that positively affect the world and bring, people to think about what they're doing socially, social injustice. I guess all of that aspect, is what I really like. And the things that have shaped my journey, like Jessica is saying, is that it's a lot of hard work. And with that hard work, it means if you show up on set or a project where people are asking you to get Starbucks coffees, it'll seem like nobody's paying any attention to you, but we are. We're watching you and seeing if you're capable of following instructions and following through with the tasks that you were given. And when you do show that, then we all talk about it like, hey, that person did a really good job today, this last film. We should invite them for another one. And like Jessica also said, sometimes it'll feel like it was a failure, nothing really happened, but you're making an impression, and you need to be aware of that and know that your work is not being ignored, it's actually really being noticed. And so anytime you're on any job, take any job that you can, big or small, because somebody's paying attention to you when you're actually doing a really good job.
Thank you. Yeah, Harrison Ford once said that tenacity beats out talent every single day. So showing up is more than half the battle. My name is Elias Gallegos. I'm a longtime actor. I grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I grew up back in the days when they did movies in New Mexico, but they did Westerns every 3 years. So I had to move to Los Angeles to pursue that career, and I was pleasantly surprised in 2008 when production started moving to New Mexico. And I remember my agent in Los Angeles, I had booked a Lifetime show, and they gave me a gift basket. It was like a high desert dweller gift basket. And he's like, when you're in New Mexico, it's a high desert, and you better stay hydrated. And I was like, thank you, David. I'm from New Mexico. And he's like, I know. I just want you to have this packet. So I was pleased to come back home, and the opportunity to do what I love most here in New Mexico is a dream come true. So thank you. I'll go back to my questions. Jessica, thank you for starting us off in such a great way.
Yeah.
How do you see the landscape of storytelling evolving in Hollywood, particularly in terms of diversity and representation. And I'll let any one of you kind of just jump in there.
I mean, one of the things I think it's really, that question in a bigger context to the industry as a whole is going through a massive transformation. We just came, all of us, out of a year of not working. And so when the strikes happened, all the work, even the non-scripted stuff really did, the buying came to a halt. And so we're at a really interesting apex of what's happening, I think, overall in the industry, where when we sold Dark Winds, there were over 600 films in TV series in production. Right now, there's 250. And so the other side of that too is you also had COVID, which impacted first theatrical releases and feature films. And so I think we have to look at the industry as a whole of like what and where it's going. My biggest advice, if I were to share from my experience and perspective right now, is diversify your development. So always have a passion project, because, you know, Dark Winds as an example, there were 5 years. We started developing that in 2015. And so for 5 years, every door was shut. The world literally had to change, and it did, for us to make a native-driven show with native filmmakers, native talent. So the sort of figuring out where we're going next, I think it's smart to always have multiple projects. So you have the passion projects of a story that you will go the distance for because you feel it in your bones and you know this story needs to be told. The time of the world is going to have to catch up to that. Your window, you just have to wait for it. Then you have the other projects that help you pay the bills. And you figure out, you know, what does that mean for you? And whether you're a feature film director, writer, producer, or if you want to tell documentaries. Investigative documentaries are the coolest thing, I think. So you have to really understand, for me, I always have a bunch of irons in the fire, and you sort of wait for the timing of things, but you constantly are working on what you have a passion for in all of those verticals.
That's great advice.
And as an actor, I would say it's exactly the same thing as what Tina's saying. I'm too tall. Like this. As an actor, you never know when your next job is going to be.
Right.
You know, and the one thing I always tell other aspiring actors too, when you get that audition, don't start putting all your hopes and dreams into something that's not yours yet. Because that's where the killer is. That's when you're just going to get really upset if you don't get that call back, if you don't book the job, or even if you get that call back, but you don't get it, you know, you don't want to do that to yourself. So a testament to what Tina said is the same thing. What I did is I made sure that I was always working in my community, and that, because for me, acting feeds my other passion in life, which is working with the Indigenous youth. So I always worked at high-risk group homes. I had a company with my mom called Lemon Creek for over a decade, where we traveled to the most isolated native reserves across Canada. I'm talking like where a bell pepper is $19, but we would teach them fitness, you know, and wellness. And I would create vision boards with them and teach them like the introductory courses to acting and stuff. And I did that because if you're in this business, you got to find something that really fulfills a sense of purpose for you and your heart. This will fulfill your passion, but find something that always feeds the other, and you'll realize that that will create longevity in this business for you. Because trust me, as days as an actor, sometimes, you know, we go 4 months on end where we're not working, and then you have this thing where you're like, God, I don't know when my next job is gonna be. Screw it, maybe this isn't for me anymore. You get all like, you know, emo. But I learned, I learned through the years, another way to not do that is, again, you want to have the mentality of, I'm in abundance, I'm not lacking, and the way to do that is to always be working on something that drives you, and only you know what drives you. So.
Thank you, Jessica. How many out there do vision boards? They work. If you go there
they
in
really
mind,
do work.
if you go there in mind, you will go there in body. That's been my experience. As filmmakers, what advice do you have for young creators looking to break into the industry?
Well, for me, I originally was doing acting and modeling, and then as a single mother, decided to start doing more directing because I would be in charge of what the rehearsal times would be to work for me. But one thing to realize is that when you have some producers, and then you have the writer, the producer, but then once you get the director who gets that script, they're going to form it immediately in their mind visually. They're going to start having a vision. They're going to have a vision and ideas what actors they would like to work with or what the look needs to be. So when you come in the room to audition, it's not that you had a bad audition. It's not that there was anything wrong with you. It's just that director has walked in the door already with a vision of what they want to see. And so they'll continuing the auditions until they finally see that person come through and say, yes, that's my Bob McGill, or that's, my Sarah Thompson, or anything like that. So again, this is a lot of hard work. I mean, I've been at it for 20 years. I know Elias has been at it about 30 years. And it comes through. But all the little non-significant jobs and all the little non-significant projects that you're on, you're forming relationships with people who are paying attention and watching you very closely. And they'll say, that person is just goofing off. They never get what I need. You're not going to be invited anymore to be on set or cast in any other way. So I say, have confidence in yourself, and then be true to your look and true with your intentions, because it'll come through for the right when it's supposed to happen at the right moment. But you have to do the work. You have to do the work.
Was the questions about breaking into the industry?
So as filmmakers, what advice do you have for folks trying to break into the industry?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One is watch as much as you can. I try to watch anything I can get my hands on, and your student films would inspire me. I think it's figuring out also, I read a lot. Optioning material or getting inspired by an article, by a conversation, by an interview that I see on BBC News, and then you start to figure out, what life does this want to have? And you can really tell very quickly if it's something that wants to be a documentary, if it wants to be a feature film. Television is much harder because of the landscape right now, but the evolution of that is changing. And so I really figure for me, I always go to the genesis of the idea of what do I want to say, and what do I want to leave people with, and how is that going to inspire me to fight the good fight to get it to come to life. And so you have to figure out what those elements are. A big piece of that, I think, for all of the students, is internships. As many as you can. I mean, when I first started in the industry, I worked in the art department. I was an art department coordinator. So
Hey.
I got to see the perspective from the inside of a show. And then I did other jobs, but I always took whatever I could next. As when I was at a PA level or an internship level, I would suggest trying to work at a studio, trying to work on set, figuring out what it is you want to be when you grow up. So if it's an actor, it's mentorships and those kind of things. But as much as possible, I say diversify your ability to move around while you can right now. And that's a really fundamental thing.
Thank you. I think this one might be, you're all invited to participate, but this one's kind of for Jessica, because I think it'll be a colorful. Could you share any memorable challenges you faced early in your career and how you overcame them?
Yeah, not booking anything for the first 5 years. That was real. But the first 5 years was amazing because I learned the hard way and the right way how to take in rejection, to not take it personal. And I also got the opportunity to work on my craft. If I had booked things in those first 5 years, I would have made a laughingstock of myself, and they probably would have cut out my scenes anyways because I was not good. And that's another thing too.
I don't believe you, Jess.
But this is the beauty of what we do. It's time is a blessing. And when you don't book those jobs, whether it's the PA intern or whatever, you know the saying, what is it? The get up, fall down, seven,
It's
get
not how
up,
many
eight.
times you fall down, it's how many times you get up.
I'm bad at math, I'm an actor, so it could be get up 2, get up 5, I don't know. But all that being said, have faith, don't stop. Because for the first 5 years of my career, I was working 3 jobs just to maintain auditioning. I was going to night school. I couldn't afford a full-time acting program because I actually already spent all my money getting a science degree at university, and I was like, I can't blow more money on this. But that time was a blessing because I to this day, you know, now I get offers, but not all the time. And I still have to read, I still have to audition, and I learned not to take it personal and to really understand this is a business. You could be an amazing actor, but you just don't have the look, you don't have the essence. And for those who are writers, you understand that. You have an essence, an idea of the soul of this character already. So someone could be really an amazing actor, but they're just not the soul or essence of the person you had in mind as the creator of your show. So yeah, all these things feel it. Did I answer it?
Yes,
Yeah?
beautiful.
Okay.
What role do you think film festivals like Film Prize Junior New Mexico play in nurturing emerging talent?
Your turn.
I do.
Again, it's an amazing opportunity to be able to work on your skills, work on getting exposure, creating relationships with the people. And the film festival circuit is something all in and of its own. It's a whole other, it's very different. It's a very unique place to be. But then from there, when you're at the different film festivals, you're going to be creating new relationships, meeting people that you would not have met had you not gone to that film festival. And like Tina was saying, when you go to the film festival, go to all the films, go as many as you can see, because a lot of times, if there's a film that's not good, sometimes it's more important to know what not to do than what to do. So, yeah.
Well, at this point, I'd like to invite our audience to look around. Just look around, the person sitting next to you, the people behind you, the individuals and who you worked with, because those are the individuals that you will work with over the next 15, 25 years, because our industry is so small. If you go to Canada, if you go to Los Angeles, if you go to Montana, New Mexico, the industry is so small that you start running into the same people and you work with the individuals. And I've done shows that I was a day player on. I just was a day player the other day on Dark Winds. But other shows in the past where you cross lives for maybe 1 day or 4 days, and those relationships and the bonds that you form are lifelong, and the lessons that you can learn, and most importantly, the knowledge of understanding and recognizing that you can do it, what you've set your mind out to do, is a very powerful transformation that can occur if you're open to it. So to answer my own question, Film Prize New Mexico, what this does is gives you students the opportunity to take your ideas, put them on paper, and put them on the big screen to share your stories with the world, and that's a very powerful thing. So anytime you get a chance to do what you love doing is important, and you should take it seriously, and that's what film festivals like this, they afford us that opportunity. So thank you, Film Prize New Mexico.
Yes, thank you. This is amazing.
How do you balance artistic integrity with commercial viability when developing projects? Tina.
Oof, that's a tricky one. I naturally gravitate towards probably more art house. I would say, this last year at Sundance, there's a little festival within Sundance called Slam Dance. And it's my favorite part of the festival because it's really artists. I mean, they're all artists, but it's not a commercially targeted towards, there's a lot of the business. We're all artists here. And this is a business. And so I really do try to find projects that could step in both worlds. You really do have to keep your eye on the ball, though. What's the marketplace? What's the temperature of the market? What are they looking for right now? And that comes from, you really have, one of the other things I think you really honestly have to do is understand, if you're really serious about being a filmmaker and in this industry, read the trades every single day. Look and see who are the up and coming. When I first started, I would take Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and they were only printed back then.
What
and
about
I
Drama
would-
Log?
Yeah, and just rip the pages out. But now you have technology everywhere. You can go on social media, you can figure out so much, but you have to start to understand who's selling, what's selling, and understand within those verticals, how can you take this passion project that you love and create an ability for a sale. And the steps to get there is also, probably you guys are learning this in school, but you have to understand that developing an idea, then getting a writer to be paid to do it, is you have to put together a pitch and figure out how to get in front of the right people to get that writer paid, to then develop out the idea, to then have something to what they call package. So then when you're in the packaging stage, your writer, you have the investor, and now you're starting to put together the team to execute a vision for what you initially had thought. So, and then it sort of goes along this line, and then you start bringing more people to the party, whether it's a buyer, it's studio that sets it up, or if you sell it directly straight to a network, or maybe possibly another investor, you know? And that's when, as a producer, from my perspective, is you start going down the line and a lot more people you collaborate with. Ultimately, you know, you want to be able to understand, where is this going to live? And to get there, I think you always have to constantly be creatively thinking about how that model comes together and the team that you bring together.
I want to snowball off of that because, again, it's very similar in the acting realm. But with everything Tina said, I realize the key is, this could sound like I know there's a stereotype, it's a narcissistic business, but actually, when you're in these positions, you always have to think in the reverse. Why is this going to be appealing to a mass audience? What could I do to sell and pitch this that the sellers, the investors, the networks are going to love this? How can I get them to see themselves in my project? So the same thing goes with branding as an actor. When I started off, I was very unaware of how I come off to people if they don't know me, met me on the street. I got resting bee face, apparently. That's a stoic Indian, right? But I didn't know that. So I would go into these audition rooms. I'd be like, hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, y'all.
And one day, this lead actress on another film, she was like, Jess, you have a really rough look. And I was like, what? And she was like, no. You have an action look. So you need to play into that. And she was like, if you could sell yourself and read these auditions as like a hard-hitting, badass action person, trust me, you will book it, because there's not a lot of people that are, you know, native-looking who could play action characters really well. Market yourself and remember this is a business. So as Dina was saying, it's like learn how to package to the people who are going to invest in this. It's the same as an actor. I had to learn to package myself as a typecast. So that's one thing for anyone who's aspiring to be an actor. Or on the other side, when you see a headshot of an actor, the reason why we're told to have headshots is because people don't have time to inspect every freckle on your face. They just want to see, oh, does this person look like a doctor? Does this person look like they could really kick someone's ass? Or, you know, where do you fit in? Where is your brand? What is your archetype in the storyline, right? So just snowballing off of that.
Yeah. And then off of that, thing to pay attention to too, when you're in grade school, high school, college level, your teachers, the faculty, have connections in this industry and have relationships. How would you know that that Rosie would have a relationship with George R. R. Martin's office? You guys wouldn't know that, but he does. So does the festival that's here with us. So when you're performing in school and you have your school projects, again, what you're doing, your work ethic, and your commitment to who you are and what the voice you want to be, your teachers will recognize that, and they'll put your information in front of us and say, hey, you need to check out this up-and-coming person, and that's how it happens.
I'd also like to add, and take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. The thoughts that you guys have, be kind to yourself. And also take care of yourselves in your health and what you put in your body. Those beautiful young minds of yours are very valuable. And just do us all a favor and take care of yourselves.
Thank you.
Don't be like me. Sorry. In what ways can young filmmakers leverage technology and digital platforms to tell their stories effectively? Well, Lenore, my sister just asked me, would that be you? Not really. No. My sister's been working on a play for some time, and it's on the level of a Broadway scope play, and she wants to intertwine these different technologies. And I told her, you can't do that. You can't have film on a play. And she said, why not? And I said, oh, I don't have an answer for that. But today, I think the opportunities that we have with technology and being able to utilize the things that we have at our disposal, it's a new frontier, and it's something that I'm learning and participating in. Just this the last 2 years now, I've done 2 movies that have been 100% green screen, and that was interesting, falling in love with the tennis ball or getting in an argument with the tennis ball. Those are things that you do as an actor. You have to just suspend your belief in order to tell the story effectively. But I think, you kids might be able to answer that question within yourselves even better than some of us on the panel here of what technologies are out there that are currently available that can aid in telling stories.
And one more thing, I have been writing this stage play for 13 years, and now it's ready. Now people are like, oh yeah, you can have short films in a play. So keep working at it.
One thing about technology you could utilize, going off of what everyone's saying about what's happening currently in the industry, don't let that stop you, because like I said, this is the time to lay your seeds. So plant those seeds. Don't lay the seeds. Plant those seeds. I'll give you a great example of what he's saying. Have you guys seen that movie Tangerine? That was shot completely on an iPhone. And then they had a little anamorphic lens designed through a Kickstarter fund, as some of you probably know, to add a flair and look to it. But look at the budget on that. It's probably under 10 grand, right? And then of course look for the grants that are specific to you guys that are available as well. But you don't need that. So even with the Indigenous Academy I have up north, they're just shooting things on their cell phones all the time. And then, you could download programs, software programs, even on your iPhones. There's like Splice. Splice is one that I'll use to quickly make like little video trailers if I need, or demo reels to send to a producer or a director. A great example for Dark Winds, I have some stunt friends, and we made a little stunt video in their backyard because they don't know what you're capable of. So it's like hand-to-hand combat, knife holding, gun training, and everything. And I sent it to Tina and the showrunner of Dark Winds, and they're like, holy, we didn't even know you could do that. But that's what I mean. Keep creating with your time off. And with cell phones, there's kind of like no excuse in this day and age to make stuff. Mm-hmm.
I love that. How do you approach the responsibility of accurately representing diverse voices and cultures in your work?
I can say on Dark Winds that from the very beginning we had Native partners. Chris Eyre, Zahn McLarnon, he came on probably right before we sold it. But all of the impact of their voice and their influence is seen every day. And then like I said, when we continue down the path to get to production, we ultimately added Native writers and into a room with more seasoned writers that were also more specifically focused on the genre. But the whole point for Dark Winds was to build a community of native storytellers that were coming up and getting the experience. So we're not putting them in a position to fail, but we're figuring out how are we cultivating new up-and-coming talent and giving them the opportunity with real leadership that's done it before to help figure out how are you doing it for this specific genre. You know, crime series that is scripted is very different from, you know, writing maybe something else that's more of a feature film. I think the other side of that too is that we've done a really good job of incorporating cultural consultants in the writer's room, which did not really happen. And we did, not that we got resistance in the beginning, but it was a different model than I think even the network was accustomed to. And now over getting into season 3, it's a natural part of the process. So I think one of the important things for children at your age and students to understand is don't listen to what people say when it comes to your creativity and your voice. Consistently think in your mind, it's just not ready for them right now. Don't dismiss or stop doing what you're doing, because if you feel it in your heart and you know this story needs to be told, like Jessica said about having thick skin, it's really just understanding your own value and your own confidence and staying with that and not allowing something else outside of yourself determine what you're going to do next. Because what you need to do next is figure out how are you getting this made. And through that process, you grow as an artist and you become stronger as a person. For me, as a woman in this industry, I've been told so many times, no, these guys know, but I don't understand what that means, and I just continually figure out how to make it work. But the evolution of that becomes the product itself. So you do a dance with it in a way. You embrace that process.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What are some common misconceptions about working in the film industry that you'd like to debunk?
Jess, you take that one.
The ones who work all the time are actually not divas. And I'm talking about the men. I find actually the ones who are snotty and on their high horse are the day players who have this idea of what we do. So that's how you can always spot the amateurs right away. They come in with this air about them and trying to boss everyone. They'll boss me around. I'll be like, oh, okay. Ooh, it's like that today. But this business will humble you. It will humble you if you're being rejected, and then it will humble you once you book the job and you're, like I said, working 14 hours a day, day in, day out. It is not for the faint of heart. It's something else. It requires an extreme amount of discipline. I think another stereotype is that we're living like rock stars. When you're working that long, your weekends, you just want to A, stay in bed, B, take a shower, and then C, start memorizing the hundreds of pages of dialogue that you have to be off book and ready to go next week for. So we are big nerds, in fact.
Yeah.
We don't have time to be rock stars. Of course, you hear stories about some people with addiction issues who historically have somehow made it in the biz, and I think also, the industry has evolved so much that no one has time for that. Everyone is replaceable. There's 8,000 streaming services. That means 8,000 jobs, which is a beautiful thing. But that also means that this idea of the star celebrity is diluted and is a dying thing. So we are, we're working seasoned professionals. And yeah.
I want to say something about Jess. So this season, we just last week did a shoot with her, and I was sitting in Video Village watching her on the monitors, and it became very clear. I said to Chris and to Zahn, when we have a guest star come on the show, we should not start with them, because Jessica is so talented and so amazing, and just this year, it's her talent and skill and her attention saying the amount of work that she has to put into memorizing the lines, to walk on, all these other things happen, and she has to be ready, and she has to do it independently of everything else. It became very clear that for the actors she's in scene with, we should start with her to let them get warmed up to catch up to her in that scene. And so I was watching and I'm like, we can't start on supporter, like anybody that comes in for a guest star, we got to start with Jessica because it's so clear how powerful she is in the scene.
100%.
That's just that nerd studying, but thank you.
It's true.
And it's not pretty. You guys have all studied. Those long hours, they're hard sometimes. So you got to find things that work for you. People are like, what is your technique to memorize? So even in that scene, we had a background actor beside me. He's like, how are you memorizing all of this? And I'm like, dude, it's just, there's no secret. It's just study and study and study. Run the line so many times that, and say it a bunch of different ways. And then mentally let it go, because you have to be open for the director and the camera operator and the DP to all come in with their thoughts on this, right? And you got to be flexible, like a ninja.
It's true.
Absolutely.
And to jump off of that is they're very correct in saying it is not glamorous. That's a very big misconception. A lot of times when we're on a project, I feel like I just went in 12 rounds in the ring with Mike Tyson, and I just want to go to bed and I just need to sleep and I need to get some rest and just get ready to do it again the next day. And so if you think back of television and movies back in the 70s and 80s, especially, it really peaked in the 80s, to be on drugs and be partying, that's just unacceptable now. Everybody has been working on their craft very digitally. And so when somebody shows up on set who's saying, oh my God, and I just do whatever I want, get out of here, man. We don't even want to see you. We need somebody who's going to be serious. We want to be somebody who's working really hard and someone who's really driven to get what they want to get done. And that's what's necessary now today.
Thank you. She's right. This one might be one of the most important ones for those of you out there getting on a very long road ahead of you. How do you stay motivated and inspired in an industry known for its highs and lows?
That would be you.
Well, for me, the first thing I would say, and this was from an actor friend who gave me some of the best advice that I hold today, is you have to learn to celebrate your own victories. I remember starting out, and even still, it feels still today like I'm starting out, and maybe I'll always feel that way. Celebrate your own victories, and I didn't know what that meant until I got my first audition, and then I didn't get it. And then I went back thinking about how hard I worked on that audition. And back then, I think working hard was doing sit-ups. That's kind of what I thought was working hard, and being prepared, knowing my dialogue. And then the year went on, and I didn't get another audition. And I missed a pilot season. I had one audition for a pilot season, and I didn't get it. And so then the daunting idea of having to wait an entire year for another pilot season to come along, I said, well, I have to celebrate that audition that I did get out of a sea of millions of people out in Los Angeles at that time that were going out for that same pilot season. There were a million people who didn't get an audition, so then I felt better about that. And then I got another audition down the road, and I got a call back, so I celebrated that. And then I started calling them pings, like a sonar ping. Every time, you doubt yourself. You start thinking, like, is this the right thing for me? Am I on the right path? And then you'll get an audition. And you're like, okay, somewhere out there, I'm navigating through this terrain. And then, lo and behold, you'll get a job. And it's like, oh my God, and you're so excited. And then you work it, and it's over. Mm-hmm. And then that ringing in your ears when you go back home, and there's nothing for you to do other than get back out there. And back then, that's the Dramalog days when I'd go and I'd look at auditions available and I'd circle parts that I was right for. It's like acrobats, like, swords play. I'm like, okay, so then those are things that I had to learn, the things that I wasn't good at. But every time I got an audition, a callback, and then eventually started booking roles, I started calling those radar pings, and it let me know that I was on the right path. and you have to learn to celebrate those victories along the way.
Yay.
Can I just share one thing that I think is very important for all the students to understand is if you have to think about the long-term investment in what you want to do. So if you want to be a director, look and see there's a DGA, that's a union that you aspire to be a part of. If you want to be in IATSE or whatever it ends up being, I think what you have to understand as an artist in this industry, producers don't have, we're the only ones that don't have a union. There's no health care paid for us. There's no pension paid for us, none of that. In a budget on a production, whether it's scripted or non-scripted, we pay as a production towards SAG, the Actors Guild, towards everybody has a union but producers. It's finally during this last strike changing, but if for whatever reason it's been very difficult. Right now there's a group of, I think it's up to 170 producers that develop and create over 90% of all the stuff that we watch on television and films. They're creating a group called Producers United. They finally have the heavy bandwidth to be able to get something done. We'll see where that goes. But I think in terms of planning your life while you're planning your art and what your vision is for yourself, understand what and where you need to traffic yourself so you're protecting yourself long term, and understanding if you can get into a union, figure out what that is and aim towards that while you're trying to figure out how to artistically express yourself. Because being an artist in film and television, you really have to understand the long-term investment and plan for yourself.
Thank you. She's right. Can you speak to the importance of mentorship in fostering talent and professional growth? Do you guys have any mentors that you've had along the way?
I'm giggling because he's not like the typical mentor. But Jason Momoa and I did a show for 3 years called Frontier on Netflix. And it was my first, I would say, like big network job. And he was just telling me also about diversifying. You know, as an actor, you should also start writing. You read so many scripts, so you understand to a certain extent structure already. I don't know if you guys have read this book, but I was recommended, and it was one of the best books ever, called Save the Cat, and it's about story structure, archetypes. So as an actor, you can figure out which of the 12 archetypes you fall into, but also story structure. It just helps you to look at a script and feel really empowered reading it and understanding how it's laid out and where your character needs to go within a scene, like all these little things. But my mentorship has actually been, it's been people outside of the business too. And I think we were talking earlier about if you don't have that mentorship, read the regs every day, the industry regs. I religiously look at deadline.com every single day. Even if I don't understand, early on in coming into this business, if I didn't understand what I was reading, I was like, well, I'm just going to familiarize myself. You don't need to memorize all the names and all that stuff. That will come naturally over time. But you do have to understand the climate of the business, where things are going, that whatever you're writing, however you're acting is in trend. Because there are waves of trends. It's like, look at all the Godzilla movies are all of a sudden happening. That's because that is capitalizing on a market trend right now. So you really have to look at this from a business perspective. And I know it sounds like we're like, oh, this business is tough. Oh, you don't get healthcare. But the flip side of it is you do get to work with people like Jason Momoa, who do end up becoming lifelong friends. Zahn McClarnon and I, we worked on that same show a decade ago, and now look at, we're working on this. Yes, you do come into chunks of money, and there's also a whole thing with that too. You got to be good with, if you're living off res, you do have to pay tax on it. So, I mean, it's not a la-la land thing, but we are afforded tons of months off where, yes, I can travel the world. yes, I can pay my bills while traveling the world because we make our money in the duration of this entire season of a show. So I mean, there are pros to it. You meet fascinating artists from all walks of life. Like we work with George R.R. Martin. I never thought in my wildest dreams we would, be hanging out for so many years. I mean, so there are pluses. If you come into this business wanting to get famous, then you are better off in all respect to become a TikTok star, because that's not what this business is about. You really have to be passionate about storytelling. And that goes as a crew member too. Grip lighting, production, set design. It's because they love storytelling.
Hear, hear. I have one more question for the group. As advocates for unrepresented voices, what initiatives or projects are you most excited about supporting in the near future?
We are, Dark Winds is doing a mentorship program with IAIA and also in partnership with AMC Networks, which is a really big step. As I said, season 3, we're seeing a lot more support and doors are opening and opportunities are happening. So IAIA is going to share with us next week a full list of candidates that they're going to submit, and then we're going to hopefully figure out a really cool program to have them come mentor on set and work with department heads and really see the inner workings of a TV show of this size. So I think that's a really exciting program that we're, really excited about.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions out there in the audience? Any burning desires to ask Jessica, Tina, myself, Lenore? Rosie, do you got any questions? Do you? Yeah, please.
Hello. Oh, wait. It's time to wait. Okay. Hi. I was wondering, how do you not get so discouraged to join the film industry? Because I think holding that fear I have to get into it, but I really want to share my stories. How do you not get scared of seeing things you don't want to see, or meeting people who are just really rude? Oh, sorry. Oh, it's even louder. How do you not get discouraged, in general, from putting yourself out there, and with all the negatives that do come with film?
Well, the first thing I would definitely say is writing down your goals and definitely having a vision board, because that reminds you. So if you have your goal list, like I do now, I have a goal list written on sticky notes in my bathroom mirror, in my bedroom, on my headboard, in my kitchen, on the kitchen counter, and that keeps you focused. Oddly enough, it makes you have hope. And you'll have a bad day, you won't get some script you've written or an audition that you didn't get, and you go home and you see your list and you go, oh, and you I can't speak today, you reorganize yourself to see your goals, and that I think is helpful. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I think an ongoing thing I notice with every successful person in any business is they are obsessed. So you have to become obsessed with what Lenore said, implementing your vision board. I have a vision board that I actually travel with all the time in my computer bag. And it's just a little one I drew out, but it's a reminder of where I'm going. I have a checklist that I write on a piece of paper every single day, and I can't tell you how much joy I get when I check one of those things off. But it's nonstop. And another thing is doing the internal work too. So you're talking about what do I do so I'm not discouraged on my journey? Well, I've been discouraged so many times, but don't ever stop developing yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally. You have to be strong inside. You have to be okay with doing the work. We all have our childhood wounds, and not to get all deep here, but if you start getting healed inside, it's just going to make your work shine even more. It's going to help you have a clearer state of mind so that you can be obsessed with your objective. If you're dealing with your traumas all the time and you haven't sorted that part of your life out, it is going to create a massive obstacle in your career. If it doesn't happen right away, it will down the line. And your personal life does dictate the quality of your work. So, but discouraged, it's what I was saying earlier about making sure that you have a sense of purpose outside of this business. And that's what keeps you going on the days where you feel very discouraged. Because what you want to do is you want to do your best to stay in a neutral zone of how you feel about the tough times in this business. If you're always thinking negatively of like, oh, F this business, no one likes me, I'm never gonna blah, 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 what are you doing? You're feeding negative energy into something you love, right? So it's gonna have the reverse effect. So always think about staying on a frequency that is, it doesn't have to be positive, but it has to be neutral. And so that's so you don't discourage yourself on a subconscious level. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah?
I would also say, and that all, both of what Lenore and Jessica shared is so true to the essence of what you need to do, and make something, shoot something, write something. The thing that you have to always keep in perspective is that your view of the life, of the world you live in, is unique to you, but it'll be relatable to so many people. Every time you see a movie or a TV show and you think, wow, I feel that, I know that. Do you know how many people are doing the same thing? And it's just, you give yourself permission to know that you're enough and exactly what you want to tell. There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that are feeling the same thing. So it's just, it's there. We live in United States where you can do anything you want. There's no constrictions on your vision for the world you live in, and that's not every part of this globe that we live on right now. So there's a lot of, interesting things that you have to say, and your age and who you are, that's the future. So we want to hear what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Get fired up.
One more thing. Your name could be Martin Scorsese, and you could have just produced a huge blockbuster, Killers of the Flower Moon, and was nominated for all these Oscars, and he didn't win one. So it's about continue to do the work.
And you guys are doing it, so pat yourselves on the back. You're in a community, and we're sitting here telling you we need you. We need your work. Mm-hmm. We want your inspiration, your ideas. Sign yourself up. Sign yourself up for something, and go ahead and work on a job, complete a class, finish a movie, and maybe it'll be a huge success, and maybe it won't, but what you'll experience is that it didn't kill you. There was nothing to be afraid of, and you'll feel more confident going in onto that next at-bat. So get fired up before you do it, get in a good state of mind, and keep creating. Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
guys.